If I happen to be stranded on a tropical island that somehow had electricity and I could only have one single DAW controller, it would be the UF1. And I'd eventually probably go crazy and also name it Wilson. Now, a lot of DAW controllers are going to help you get the job done. This DAW controller is going to help you get the job done better. What's going on, guys? My name is Steve Kinney. I'm a producer, engineer, and content creator here in Nashville, Tennessee. And before we get started, it would mean the world to me if you guys could hit the like button on this video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I really want to know, what do you guys think is next for SSL? They've been on an absolute tear lately. I don't see them stopping anytime soon, but I don't know, you tell me. So let's talk about the UF1. So the UF1 is a single fader control surface, but in my eyes, it's so much more than that. And we're gonna dive into why a little bit later in the video, so stick with me. Now the UF1 has been out for a minute, so you probably already know what comes in the box, so we're not gonna do an unboxing video. Just know they give you everything you need to get started, including the USB cable, power supply, USB adapter, etc., the usual suspects. Now, when I'm in the studio, it's always function over form, but that said, visually, you already know that this is the best looking controller out there, and the looks don't do it justice until you get your hands on it. Just like the UF8, everything on this device feels like it's ripped straight off of an SSL console. The rotary encoders have that nice, satisfying, stiff feel that you'd find on a console or on an outboard preamp. The fader feels like it was just chopped straight off the UF8 and just tucked right into the UF1. Can't say enough good things about the faders that they've included on these devices. They're superb. Even the weight of the device, when you get it in your hands, it feels just right. It's sturdy, it feels reliable. It's exactly the kind of thing that you're gonna want when you set it on your desk in your studio. Now, where do the similarities end? So included on the UF1 is an immensely satisfying jog wheel. And I know that's something really silly to kind of get excited and talk about, but when your only jog wheel on the UF8 or on other devices is one of those rotary encoders that kind of clicks, well, that causes your jogging mechanism on your DAW to kind of skip through the grid. So it's nice to have something that is both smooth on screen and then smooth physically, getting that kind of tactile feedback. Now, the elephant in the room is the enormous display that it has at the top of the device, and that's obviously different from the UF8, but the star of the show is the plugin for that display, which they've included in your purchase of the device. And speaking of purchasing the device, I'm proud to say that this video is sponsored by Sweetwater. And besides the fact that I have Sweetwater on speed dial in my phone, and I would absolutely live inside the facility if I could, Sweetwater is the best place to trust with your gear purchases and musical gear investments. They offer personalized gear advice. That means you actually have someone to talk to when you're not sure which compressor might be right for you. In addition to the personalized support, they offer a whole wealth of resources on their website, including buying guides, reviews, how-tos, you name it, they got it. So if you find this video helpful in the slightest and you decide you want to pick up a UF1, I've left an affiliate link in the description below. Using that link allows Sweetwater and myself to know that you've valued my take on the UF1, you found it helpful. So out of the box, this is going to work with pretty much every major DAW out there: Pro Tools, Logic, Studio One, Luna, you name it. It is important to note that if you don't have a UF8 and you're going to set this up for the first time, that you install all the software first. If you're like me and you do have a UF8 already, installation's a breeze. It's basically plug and play. Of course, you're going to have to get through the firmware updates first, and you're going to have to download the SSL meter plugin. But outside of that, that's about it. Setup is super simple. So if you're on that deserted island and all you had was the UF1, you're going to get so much of what made the UF8 great just condensed down into a smaller form factor. You're going to get that amazing automation experience. You're going to get that awesome tactile feel, and you're still going to get over 40 customizable soft keys. And to me, this is what really sets these controllers apart from everything out there on the market right now. When you're mapping these soft keys, it's not just simple MCU commands that you can map to it. You can map entire strings of keyboard commands together to create one big macro. So if you want to press one button and have it create 16 new tracks and have it create a bus track, you can do that. Just take the time, program the macro. That's the power of the SSL 360 software and why I like these so much. Now, if you do have a UF8, this takes this whole macro thing to a whole new level. Now you've effectively doubled your shortcut keys that you have available to you. The big channel encoders work independently, so you can keep them on independent functions. For example, I could keep the UF1 so that it cycles through the different channels in my session, and I could keep my UF8 in focus mode so that I can control plugin parameters errors on the fly. The dedicated transport controls means that you can forget about having to map any sort of transport control to the top of your UF8, and having a dedicated master fader is just super handy. I really love that feature. But now we gotta talk about the SSL metering section. The UF1 really bridges the gap between in-the-box and out-of-the-box workflows. If it was the 1970s and I was working on a large format console, I would be working entirely here. I wouldn't be looking at a screen or using a mouse. And while control surfaces have always done the fader thing really nice and the pan knob really nice and writing automation data, so much of the feel was missing because I still had to rely on my screen to look at metering or get useful insight into what's going on with my mix. With the SSL metering plugin or the SSL metering function on the UF1, I can get a true peak readout, I can get RMS levels, frequency spectrum information from the RTA, but one of the most sought after functions that I feel has always been missing is a VU meter. And on that note, a great trick to balancing your kick and bass levels involves using a VU meter. And now you have one and you can do it all here. You can control plugin parameters, you can control sends on fader, you can control automation, you can get information about the frequency content in your mix. Again, here. It's amazing. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned how the UF1 is more than just a DAW controller. To me, it's really more of a master control section that you'd find on a large format console. When you have clients in your studio and you want them to listen to a mix revision, you want them to sit in that listening spot, having that iconic transport control section can really play a big role when you're working with your clients. Even if they don't know how to use the DAW you're using or the outboard gear, all the faders, they're certainly gonna know how to hit the play button and the stop button, and they're definitely gonna know how to pull the fader volume down if it's a little hot coming out of the speakers. Giving them that control, having them sit in that hot seat, it's instantly familiar to them and it's gonna connect them with their music in a special way. And here's another useful thought. Since many of us are musicians ourselves and we collaborate with other musicians in the room, say you're collaborating with that artist, or maybe you have another producer come on over and they're not familiar with the DAW you're using, say they're a Pro Tools guy or say they're a Cubase guy and you're a Luna guy, and you need them to run the session, but really only to do a very simple thing like punch something in or hit record so you can be in the other room and record a guitar part or record a BGV. Having that transport section is really gonna make that a lot easier rather than having to mangle your fingers on the keyboard. The big red record button is sitting right there, easy to access, and it's gonna make the session be a breeze because of the familiarity that the transport section really provides. Now, many of you know that I'm a huge Luna guy. I love working with it. It's my main DAW at this point, and I've said in the past how I really believe that the UF8 and the SSL 360 software really bring the best out of Luna. And I'd love to show you how I implement the UF1 in addition to the UF8 inside of Luna, but I want to keep this video as digestible as possible. So I'll be putting out a separate video dedicated to just the UF1, the UF8, and Luna. And as part of that video, I'll be giving away my template for the UF8 and the UF1 together for free. To support the channel further or connect with me one-on-one, go to thestevekinney.com. And don't forget to like the video if you found it useful and leave a comment below. I want to know what you think's coming next from SSL. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers.